You're watching the Movie Dogs. We bark about the movies and nothing but the movies. Welcome to the Doghouse. We take a bite out of the movies. Subscribe to the Movie Dogs and become part of our film-loving community. Hit that subscribe button and don't forget to click the bell for updates. See you in the next review.
Welcome back, OMG Pretzel Bites, to the Movie Dogs, our original OG sponsor.
Your hosts, William Baxter and Joshua Church.
Hey everybody, so here we are, born to do a review. No, I'm not going to do that. So, hey, I need sleep. Okay, no, so we're going to do a little bit of a cool retrospective here on the Movie Dogs about Highlander. So, Highlander is one of those movies that I adore. It's one of those movies that I know is not perfect, but I still love. Now my journey into Highlander was pretty, simple and usual for the era in which I grew up. In the 80s, it was, there's no internet. Everything's word of mouth. Everything's kind of passed around. And Highlander was one of those that I heard people reference. I heard people bring it up. There were always people I hung out with who like swords or whatever. And were like, oh, it's this movie Highlander. Oh, there can be only one and stuff. And you're like, oh, cool, okay. And so Highlander was one of those where it was in the public zeitgeist, and people had talked about it. And I remember as a kid going to the video store, and as was usual for a latchkey kid, little me, going to the video store and getting recommendations from the guy who worked there. And I remember I had watched some movie. I can't remember the title, but it was my dad wanted to watch it. So it was a movie with Rutger Hauer where he was like this samurai, and he wandered around, and but he was a white guy samurai in a modern time, but he had sword, and was going around righting wrongs and whatever. I can't remember the damn name of the movie, but I remember it was pretty much a B movie. But Rutger Hauer, being Rutger Hauer, still was pretty good. So I remember the guy caught me one day, and he was like, "Oh man, if you love this, you should probably watch Highlander if you haven't yet." And I was like, "Oh, my dad watched Highlander back in the day, or right when it came out, or whatever." He's like, "But I haven't seen it." And he was like, "Oh, you should totally, take it. Trust me, you'll love it. It's got great music." And I was like, "Okay." And I distinctly remember that my dad was at work. I was, by myself. I had made dinner for my sister, and, now granted, in true 80s fashion, I was like 10. And my sister was like 7, but I made dinner. I made sure she did her work and stuff, and I was able to sit down and watch the movie. And I was like, "Oh, cool, check this out." My dad's not home yet; he's at work. So I was like, let's see what this movie's all about. And as soon as it kicks on, it's like, oh, geez, okay, this is different. Like, I remember that being my initial thought of this is different. The camera moving around the Madison Square Garden and the wrestling match and all that kind of stuff. And I just remember going, what the hell is this movie? And then it kicks to the past, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, all right. And I just remember thinking the energy that movie had, the zest for life that movie had, like right off the gate, and them just being creative, and you could just tell they were just going for it. I really loved, and I thought, Christopher Lambert was like really good, and he just carried the weight of the role, but still with some fun to it. And I know I hear stories of like, that's why he was kind of selected, was because they really liked his look, and he was drawn to it because he was like, oh, it's a guy who lives forever, and he's lost so much and gone through so much, but he can still be upbeat. He can still be optimistic. He can still live life and be happy about things, and be optimistic, and that drew him to it. And I agree, it works for Connor. To me, it was a character who has this pain and carries that, but he still makes jokes, and he still does that, Christopher Lambert laugh, that the kind of ridiculous laugh he always did. Also worked it into Raiden when he did Mortal Kombat, but like that kind of stuff, hey, it's a kind of magic and all that kind of stuff. It was really cool. And then you get to the bit where it's like, okay, the Kurgan shows up, and Clancy Brown absolutely friggin' brings all the chaos energy as the Kurgan, as this immortal who has lost everything. Like, he gave everything for the game of this battle of immortals fighting over time. And this guy sacrificed every bit of his culture, of who he was, of his, where he came from, friends, family, all of it. Now he's just a warrior, just, traveling, fighting. That's it. That's all he cares about. And so he's fully like, nothing matters. He's like the Joker in a way of like, nothing matters, everything's a joke, who gives a shit? Like, I can do whatever I want. And that's how he lives. And so he played him so twisted, but that it wasn't just like, oh, he's just a villain. It was like, no, this is a guy who doesn't care. And there's a reason he doesn't care. And maybe it doesn't get revealed in the movie, but it's all implied and it's all there. And I thought Clancy just did an amazing job, and that voice is so good. Of course you are, and all that kind of stuff. So good. But yeah, he did a great job, and all the side characters did an awesome job. You had, McLeod's adopted daughter that he found in World War II, and that was really sweet, and that actress absolutely brought it. And you have the the historian love interest who, kind of got drawn to him because of the sword and because of, being a metallurgist and studying and everything. And I thought that was really cool. And it's hokey in places, but God, man, the Queen soundtrack is just so good. The backstory is really well handled, and you can even get around the fact that there's a guy who looks and sounds very Scottish, as like, I'm ancient Egyptian. Like, I lived in Egypt. It's just how I sound. 3 no's and a yes mean yes. Very Sean Connery, every word is chewed and swallowed, spit out. But he did a really good job. I thought Ramirez was entertaining and fun and was a different character for him. And the training montage is really well done, and all the just kind of tongue-in-cheek fun of that movie. You can tell that like people either didn't know about this movie when it came out or weren't ready for it. I don't know. It was just one of those movies that was made for VCR, VHS, video store energy of just like people going, oh my God, you gotta check out this movie. It's so crazy. Because it kind of is. And it's definitely one of those movies that wasn't written to be sequelized and turned into a franchise, but of course it was. Because it feels like a one-off. It feels like you're getting the end of the story and not the beginning. Because to me, if you were going to do Highlander, which they are doing a current one now with Henry Cavill, which we're waiting on the trailer on that one, but like, if you're really going to do it, I don't know, like it should be told over the generations and several instances of stuff happening. There's a reason why they did that kind of stuff in the show, but like, it's hard because you get to Highlander and it's all about the conclusion of the game and the fight and winning the prize. And that is like the end. Because after that, you've won. And, granted, there's so much stuff in that that's never explained about, why and where does that power come from and what. And they tried to explain it in Highlander 2 and it got convoluted and weird. I think it's better if it's just never really said. It's just one of those things that happen. But yeah, I don't know. Highlander is just really cool. The music absolutely makes the movie work for me. The acting, the camera angles, the crazy sped up car sequences, like all of it just kind of works, even if it's kind of goofy. And yes, you get to the end of the movie now with it being in HD, you can see the wires hanging him as he spins and gains the prize, but it's like, I don't care. It's one of those movies that I unabashedly love, and I listen to the songs like often. It comes through, whether it's Prince's The Universe or Who Wants to Live Forever. I listen to those songs. They're great Queen songs, and it's definitely one of those movies that is a product of the 80s. It has the fingerprints of that era on it. You can see from the sets, it's like they're working on a bare bones budget, but it works. Very good. And it definitely gets highest praises from me. I love that original. I never watched the sequels or the show, but that original one, man, made every single person want that, ivory handled, katana. Everybody wanted that sword, or wanted Kurgan's awesome sword with little pop-out blades. Everybody wanted that because it was rad, And the sword fights weren't bad, It was like choreographed, or at least he gained, Connor, Christopher Lambert trained with Bob Anderson, who did, all the stuff for Star Wars. So he was getting, good training, and you could see there's some good fight stuff in there for blade to blade battles and stuff, but not on par with like, I guess, modern, choreography, but still well handled, I thought, and really, well put together. But yeah, Highlander gets my top marks. I appreciate you guys. And now I am tossing it over to Billy to finish our Movie Dog special on Highlander. So take it away, Billy.
Hey, everybody. I want to thank Josh for tossing it off to me. And I don't know, folks. Do you think he should have finished the song? I think he should have. Come on, Josh. You got balls of steel. You can do it. Maybe next time. Because definitely I'm going to make you watch the second one. So we can talk about the second one in the future video. Anyway, folks. Yes, Highlander. It's in my top 10. I'd have to say my top 10 favorite films. I remember watching this at a friend's house on cable, and I was hooked. I am a fan of swords. I have the Ramirez sword. It's a replica, but there's a little difference to it, so it wouldn't have to get the license. But it's been sold for many years, like the original Ramirez sword has been. But I just love this film. It's one of the few. Yeah, as Josh pointed out, there is some flaws in this film. Russell McKay, I think it was his second, maybe third film. His first film was an Australian film called Razorback, and he was a commercial director, like many of the directors in the 80s were. For me, always the big flaw has always been the producers, Panzer and Davis. They kind of, they're always getting by on the seat of their pants when it comes to production problems and money. But the film itself, I just absolutely love it. Sean Connery, who did about a week's worth of filming, got paid like almost $2 million or something like that at the time, which was a lot of money back then. It is now, if you ask me. But him and Christopher Lambert had wonderful chemistry, and that's the reason why I'm sure they somehow wrote it to where Sean Connery can come back with a second one. Clearly, he was dead in the first one. He was dead, Jim. But, movie magic and the script said so. But, again, I was just mesmerized by the lore of this film. And as Josh put it, you're entering the tail end of the story. This was supposed to be one shot. But again, it was just the chemistry between Connery and Lambert. And this was, I think, Lambert's second or third film. The first movie he did was Tarzan, Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, which it's a good film. I recommend it, but it had its flaws too. And I don't even think Christopher Lambert's voice was even, I think it was overdubbed like Andy McDowell's was. But this film was just, it's so, and with Queen's soundtrack, Michael Kamen did the score, but he also worked with Queen into making just such wonderful music. Who Wants to Live Forever, which was a melody that he came with and came up with. He worked with Brian May very closely. Brian May's the one that sings that song. Freddie Mercury does background vocals. But that was one of the most beautiful songs ever written in the 1980s, especially for a soundtrack. And it's very hard to find the score. You have to find it in like I believe still in the trilogy compilation. And but again, Queen's soundtrack didn't get, because the movie bombed, didn't get to be released as Highlander the soundtrack. It came out as a Kind of Magic, which also had a few other songs that I believe were on other movies, like One Vision is on there, and that went to Iron Eagle, the original Iron Eagle movie. But again, you got Princess of the Universe, which opens this movie and gives it such a powerful presence just from the opening credits alone. And of course, when Josh was talking about the shots that they did from Madison Square Garden, and they were clipping back and forth between him reminiscing about the ages of when he was in the land in his native land of Scotland, battling with all the other Scotsmen. And it's just, you started getting the sense, and you really didn't know what's going on until you're going back to the long flashbacks to where he first died and meeting the Kurgan. Now, when you come down to it, the Kurgan, Clancy Brown stole the show. His performance was off the wall, bombastic, crazy, insane, everything, and just the fact that he was able to, capture that all into this movie was just unbelievable. Roxanne Hart, who played the character of Rachel, she just a beautiful woman, and she was able to, move the movie along with her pursuit of looking for the sword, because of the crime scene where McLeod had to fight a former friend because they're close to the gathering is upon them, and everyone for themselves, and she just wants to find the katana because it's not supposed to exist. That's Sean Connery's sword, which he explains about it in one of the flashbacks, that it's one of a kind. And of course, unfortunately, you don't get that scene because that scene was cut from the film and the negatives was lost forever. But there is pictures of it. Now, the director's cut is a little different, not too much. It's basically the international cut, but I highly recommend that be the film to watch, that version, because it's pretty much all you're going to get. But again, the marketing, they couldn't, the marketing of 20th Century Fox, which distributed the films here in the States, couldn't figure out what to do. And, the film got lost. Fortunately, overseas, the film was a big hit, big hit, especially in France. And it just, the cinematography alone, when they're in that final battle, they're in that warehouse room and the lights and the windows in the background, and, they're having to fight on top of that one building where it says the Spalding sign, and they're knocked down a water tower and they're fighting underwater, and then they crash through a window and they're falling. It just, the way the camera's moving around on a dolly and capturing all these shots and these long, drawn, beautifully made, choreographed sword fights. And of course, when the sparks are flying on the swords, and everything about this movie is just fun. I mean, and of course, you got the supporting cast of his former wife from back in the 1800s, where he basically stayed with her till the day she died when she was an old lady, and the little girl he saves from the Nazis, he raises her as his own daughter, and you could tell that she was also in love with him because she knew he was just a special person in her life. And it gives so much. I would love to have read the original screenplay, because the screenplay got changed a lot by the screenplay. The story was written by Jeffrey Wiseman, who wrote this on his college thesis, and I hope that they kind of touched that original storyline that he wrote for the remake, which Henry Cavill is starring in, along with Dave Bautista and Jeremy Irons. And I believe Russell Crowe's in it. I think he's playing the Ramirez character. But again, it was just, there's so much mythology. And of course, there's sequels. There was 4 films after this, 2 TV shows, an animated movie, animated show. But again, the original, as Josh pointed out, this was supposed to be a one and done. And you can look at it as a one and done, because it's just, the story was perfect. I mean, they could have made prequels and stuff. That would have been fine with me. But, man, God, this movie is just so good. And yes, it's Josh, there's flaws. But, I mean, again, it's just more or less editing purposes, continuity, a little here and there. But it's just, man, I just say it's one reason why it's in my top 10. Even when it's in the 1980s, because it takes place in 1985, came out in 86, but it doesn't really date itself so much, but maybe the music, the Queen music. But again, it's just, So much fun to watch this. I mean, if you're just a fan of sorcery and, which is kind of is categorized in there too, it's so, man, it just works. And again, the chemistry between Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery, hell, even Clancy Brown in the scenes that he shared with Christopher Lambert, they're battering against each other, came up with one of the coolest scenes of when he's in disguise. He's shaved his head and he's got the bobby pins in his neck to hide the scar that he has from Ramirez in a previous fight centuries before. He says this one really great saying from a song from Def Leppard: "It's better to burn out than to fade away." And that's just, again, Clancy Brown and this is Mr. Krabs, folks. So those who put in the connections, Clancy Brown, the Kurgan, ended up portraying Mr. Crab for the last almost 30 years. But again, I highly recommend you, if you guys have not watched this, watch it. And, of course, I'm going to watch the remake when it comes out. I'm very curious. If anybody, Henry Cavill, I think, will do it justice. And again, I understand it's kind of a mixture of the original movie and the lore taken from that they used in the TV series with Adrian Paul as Duncan MacLeod. So, again, check this movie out. It's worth the watch. Quintessential 80s action film. So that's my stance on it. I want to thank Josh for taking the time to add his opinion on this, because this is a two-person opinion, multiple-person opinion, if you ask me. But again, folks, check out the original 1986 classic Highlander. All right, that's all the time I got. I want to thank you all. We're still stuck in the 80s. We got a few more of these to go, folks. So strap yourselves in a DeLorean and let's get back into our time, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Keep on watching. There can be only one. Bye.
Hey, like and subscribe. Be sure to check out more of the content on the Movie Dogs channel. All the reviews and cool remarks and cool guests like me, Josh Church, the owner of River Monster Comics. We are in Denellen, Florida, so if you're ever in the area, come by and check out the shop. Get some cool nerd stuff, comics, pops, toys, whatever. And swing by and just have some cool conversations about movies and all things pop culture. We appreciate you. See you soon.